Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today we're taking a look at Masters of the Universe Origins Skeletor, Evil Lord of Destruction. For anyone that didn't see my He-Man review, this might be a little shocking, but I've decided to branch out a little bit in the types of toys I review, just because I've started getting an interest in MOTU here recently. So hopefully the reception to this bucking of the norm is met with more positive response than negative. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, this Skeletor is a recreation of the original toy with some modern posing added in, and he's put up on this nice, like, retro cardstock blister card packaging, so I dig that. And yeah, today we're just going to take a look at the packaging and then take a look at Skeletor and see what kind of toy this is and how much fun an update to a toy from 1983 can be. So Skeletor comes on your standard Master of the Universe packaging. You get his name, his title there. You get the modern posing retro play call out. You get a little comic thing here in the back, just like He-Man came with. You see Skeletor himself. In the back, you get a little like baggie of his accessories, which are his staff and something else. I think it comes with one more, like some small weapon. Here in the back, you get this really cool artwork of Skeletor, looking very sinister, very evil. And it says, the nefarious overlord Skeletor wants to control the power within Castle Grayskull, which is very direct and to the point. Here it shows you how to fit his Havoc staff into his hand and how to twist him around in different positions. And then you just get cross-sells for the rest of the first wave, which I don't think the waves aren't synced identically to how they released in 83 to 87 or so. But I think Wave 1 here is pretty close to the original Wave 1 as far as character selection. So yeah, here's kind of your initial cast. I still don't have Beastman. If anyone happens to know where I could find a Beastman for a decent price, I'd definitely appreciate that tip, because I think online he's like $40 right now and toy should be $15. So hopefully I can find one soon. So here's the mini comic that comes with Skeletor, and it is indeed the exact same one that came with He-Man. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's called Beast Barrage, and typical He-Man tale, bad guys attack. Teela and Man-at-Arms come to fight him off, then He-Man shows up to save the day. Bad guys retreat. Happy ending. So if you want to see that more in detail, check out the He-Man review I just did previously to this one. And then of course you get your Wave 1 cross-sells on the back here. Okay, now we get to see Skeletor, and you can see I got him dual-wielding his staff there, which is something he does fairly well because of his one open hand here, kind of just rests in the palm. The downside to the fact that he has the one closed hand and the one open hand is he can't really adequately wield both of his weapons at once. And that's a little bit of a problem there. Because unlike He-Man, he doesn't have a nice little holster in the back to store an extra weapon. I mean, you might be able to slide it down in there under the strap. Oh, that came out. That came off. It's not a very tight connection, is it? Pretty loose. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have a holster for it, which is unfortunate. And, I mean, you can kind of, sort of get it in this hand. Doesn't work very well, but you can kind of just wrap the guard around his knuckles there. It's a weird way to hold it, but, I mean, I guess it works. He just kind of holds the sword sideways instead of, with the edge facing toward you. So I suppose that's an option you have if you want to go that route. As far as his posability, he's exactly the same as He-Man, right? So he's got a ball-jointed head. Probably, I think it's double ball-jointed. Feels like it. He's got the universal shoulders, which move around. Not as tight as He-Man's, which is good. He's got the elbows that bend. They bend about the same distance. He's got the hand that's on a swivel and a little hinge here. Same there with that hand. He's got the full waist swivel. Universal hips, which move about the same amount as He-Man's, maybe slightly more, but that might just be... I think it's probably a product of the fact that he's got a different little... Oh no, that's the same too, isn't it? I don't know then. He just feels like he's got more range than He-Man does. He's got the bending knees that can bend pretty deeply. The weird knee rotation here. He's got some gross mold flash on the back. I'm going to have to scrape that off a bit. It's ugly. He's got the rotation at the boots like He-Man does. And then he's got the ankle rock and rotation, which forms kind of a tilt there. So, same exact posability as He-Man. In fact, a lot of his parts are shared with He-Man's. Here's the man himself for a quick comparison. So, when we look at the parts that are shared between these two, I'd say that these guys, they kind of define the two major body types of all the different MOTU figures, at least, the male ones. Because while most of their parts are the same, they do have some key differences. Obviously the head, but that's different on like every character. The forearms are the first big difference. Skeletor has these kind of demonic or alien-looking spiky forearms. So he's got these just little protrusions that come out on the top and bottom, and of course he lacks the bracers that He-Man has. The hands, I believe, are exactly the same. Torso is the same, all that. Biceps are the same. Even that little like pelvic area is the same. He just has this belt thing going over it. The upper legs are the same, and it looks like, I want to say that the calves are the same, though Skeletors do seem to be cut at more of an angle. It might just be things playing tricks on me, though. I think those are still the same piece. So then you get down to the boots. So everything from here down are different, right? He-Man just got your standard like laced up leather boots. Skeletor has something that's looks more like a demon skin and like claws on the bottom. So those are the big differences, right? Your forearms and your feet. And these two different styles, whether He-Man style, Skeletor style, a mix of the two, ended up getting reused a number of times across the original MOTU toy line. One in particular I can think of that uses Skeletor's bits is Ninjor. I know he at least has the boots. I don't know if he's got the spiky forearms or not. He might not. He might have the regular ones. So that is something that's pretty interesting. These two being like the big good, the big bad of the whole series, do kind of define the artistic direction of the series. Now, just as He-Man can combine Skeletor's sword with his own to create the Power Sword, Skeletor can do the exact same thing. Let's go ahead and set the staff down. Steal He-Man's sword. Oh, you've been defeated, bro. Give him the little Skeletor here. Boom face. Press them together. Again, on my copies, the ends kind of want to splay apart a little bit. It's probably just because how they were in the package. But you go ahead and you put in his good hand, his weapon-wielding hand. There you go. You can have Skeletor wielding the Sword of Power. And we found out what happens when he does that in Revelation, right? He becomes the all-powerful Skelegod. Which, I just had that come in the mail, by the way, so, review incoming. Now, I did learn a little bit about the purpose of all this, because I mentioned in He-Man's review how this parallels what happened in the Revelation cartoon, where the Power Sword got split into its two, component halves. And I said that, that seemed like a reference to this play feature. And I think it still was. But there is an actual story reason for these, even, as far back as the inception of the toy line. Now, it was more of a comic-only thing, but in the little mini comics that were included with the original toys, because sadly, these Origins ones don't come with the original comics. They come with, something else. So that's a shame. I'd really prefer to see the original stuff. But the idea was the Power Sword did, indeed exist as two halves. He-Man had one, Skeletor had the other. And what they did is they said that the combined Power Sword actually served as the key for opening Castle Grayskull. So that's why Skeletor is always trying to get a hold of it, because, once he combined them, he could open the gates to Grayskull, go in, get the power that's contained there. So that was the original dynamic of this sword, and they ended up dropping that for the cartoon series. They just made the Power Sword, one thing, or we believed it was one thing until Revelation happened. And it was, the weapon that Prince Adam actually used to transform himself into He-Man. In the original comics, that wasn't really the case. So, interesting bit of lore and trivia for you. Of course, this creates the conundrum of, who wields this sword? Do you just let He-Man and Skeletor keep holding, their individual halves and keep it real vanilla to the OG toy line? Or do you combine the sword and give it to one of them? personally, if I were to pick one to give a sword to, I'd give it to He-Man because he actually has enough hands or at least places to hold weapons where he can hold this thing. Where Skeletor really either gets his sword or his staff because he won't hold his combined sword very well in his big open hand, and he absolutely won't hold the staff in it. So you got to pick your battles there. And this completes our look at MOTU Origins Skeletor. Overall, I really like this guy. I mean, Skeletor has just got one of those timeless, cool designs, right? He's this big, muscular, blue, monster-looking dude with a skull for a head, and he's got, like, his hood, and, the show and stuff, he's got a cape, too. Unfortunately, the original toy didn't have the cape. A little more plain-looking. He's got his really cool staff with, like, the ram skull head on it. And then he gets one half of the power sword, which, in purple looks very wicked and very appropriate for, being wielded by this guy. So overall, really, really like this dude. He makes a great foil to He-Man. I mean, he really is like his polar opposite. Whereas He-Man is like brave looking and heroic. Skeletor just looks wicked, but very dangerous, right? Not cowardly wicked, but like, Sauron wicked, where you just don't want to mess with this guy. So overall, I think he's really, really cool. And between him and He-Man, it's been a great introduction for me to, the classic MOTU toy line, or, this update to it. So overall, if, you haven't picked this up and you're thinking about getting into He-Man, I'd strongly recommend it. I think that he's just a really cool toy in his own right. He's a really great way to, start out a MOTU collection. He's just kind of one of those must-haves, right? It'd be like doing a Transformers collection, not getting a Megatron. So I think he's very neat, and luckily, because of the way these guys are stocked in your major retailers, especially Walmart, there are plenty of He-Mans and plenty of Skeletors to go around. I mean, the Walmart pegs are just full of these guys, and usually nothing else. And then they'll tend to have like some Battle Cats on the bottom somewhere. So he won't be hard to find. They're affordable. They're only $15 a piece. And I'd pick them up, as even if you're just like, you never messed with He-Man or you're a casual fan, go ahead and play around with them. They're a lot of fun to mess with. And the added posability from, the originals really just helps sell it, right? If these were just straight up the old reissues, I don't know if I would have gotten into doing this, because as cool and nostalgic as they are, they don't do much, right? You just kind of swing their arms up and down. That's about it. So I don't know if they could have sold me on this, but, keeping this aesthetic with more modern posability, and for $15, I mean, that's not bad, right? Like, fully articulated figures tend to run a good bit more than that. So I think he's totally worth it. And I think he's a good kind of jumping in point for anyone that's, new to this, or anyone that is a fan of MOTU and just hasn't started collecting yet. Of course, that is just how I feel about Skeletor. Now I want to know what you all think of him. Do you see this guy as kind of a must-have for any fan of Masters of the Universe or any just kind of general, geek culture kind of stuff? I mean, he definitely can occupy a place on your general, like, nerddom shelf if you want him to. Or do you not like this guy? Are you just not interested in, like, the retro Skeletor thing? Do you not like him as a character? Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. If you'd like to become a member of the channel and join us for members-only live streams, or the opportunity to ask questions for a monthly Q&A video, or even get a shout-out in that Q&A video, check out the join button down below where you can become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month. I thank you for joining me for this look at the, well, not new, from last year, but the MOTU Origins Skeletor. And with all that said, I will see you next time.